right, so I'm just going to get this out of the way. Hey, everybody, I am Joe Capobianco. Welcome to an episode of Not For Nothing. I am at the shop, and I am excited to be sitting with somebody, not a tattooer, but played an integral part of the tattoo game for a long period of time, and someone I've known since the late 90s.
Yeah.
I was introduced by Eric Merrill. So why don't you tell everybody who you are? Just a brief description if you want.
My name is Bryan, and I am the world's greatest front guy. I worked at a tattoo shop. I started about 93 at Body Graphics in South Windsor, Connecticut, and I was just the front guy. I took the money, I made the appointments, and I built from there. My partner became Tim Brewer, and we started the tattoo machine company Pulse.
Yeah, and Tim Brewer was a tattooer at Body Graphics.
Absolutely, and he saw it from the inside, I saw it from the outside, so we had a really nice marriage that way. Plus, I understood all the equipment because I was the guy who ordered it for years and years for everybody.
So it's funny, you've technically been in this business as long as I have, just on the opposite end of things.
100%.
And it's funny because at that time, when I first started tattooing, we never had front people. Like, it was always the artist took care of everything.
Himself.
Yeah, you answered phones, you did all the bullshit. I don't think we ever had a front person until we opened. Well, when I went to work at Darkside had Joey Apartments.
Yep.
But for the most part, the whole time, the first third of my career, never had a front person.
No, but that's one of the big things that changed the business at that time. Is every man for himself. Everybody traveled.
Yeah.
You had a 1-2-man shop. As you started to get 3, 4, 5 people, and people had expectation of a more professional environment, there was need for a guy like me to make the appointments. We were taking checks, we were taking cash, and again, we had 4 or 5 people banging 6 days a week.
So was Body Graphics in the same location? They moved. They're
we were just a mile down the street originally. And when they opened, it was a 2-man, and that's why I knew it grew, because it was Tim Sullivan started it with a guy named Tom Moxley. And they hired Lou, and Lou was my friend. And this is how I got dumped into this business.
This is Lou Jacques, by the way.
Lou Jacques pushed me into a hole like the White Rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. I fell in, and then 25 years later. Lou left. We worked at a package store together, and he used to tattoo himself in the package store. He'd put his leg up on the counter and work while people came in and bought booze.
He didn't say any of this shit when he did that.
100%.
He acted like, oh yeah, I left there and I went to Darkside. And
No. No, he used to leave the package store and go get tattooed. And he was getting tattooed at Papillon's first. Right. And then he moved and got tattooed by Mike Fitz. And that's when he really got the bug.
Yeah.
And again, he was a great artist that I didn't know. And his brother is like a phenomenal pencil artist.
Which is funny because he never really did anything. It's like Lou kind of, I mean, I don't know what his brother's doing now, but yeah, his brother was an amazing artist.
Still is.
Never really did.
I think he still works.
He's still doing stuff.
I just don't think he's turned it into a professional career. I think he does people's pets portrait and stuff. But the two of them were super talented. And I knew Lou even before that. He was a kid who played in a band, bass. His friends was my girlfriend at the time's sister's friend, and he used to bug me because I had a band, so he'd come in and, hey, where are you playing? What are you doing? And then we got the package store gig, which was crazy because he was 19 and I was 21.
Oh, really?
And they let him run the package store.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked up.
And then, he tattooed himself, bought the A to Z. I was there the day it came. Huck Spalding, read the book, got it set up, and started working on himself.
It's amazing how so many artists in the state kind of started in that way, where it was just kind of like, it was kind of an in-the-know thing. Like, you knew somebody who got you in, and then it just kind of grew from there.
But nobody wanted to pick you up. Nobody wanted to say, here's how you do it.
Oh, okay.
You had to get yourself pushed through. And then once you could do something passable, somebody might say, all right, we'll set you up and get some friends in here and see what you can do. And you had to grow. I mean, everybody fought their way into this business at that time.
So when I met you back in it was 98, I think, right? I want to say it was before I had moved to New Hampshire, I think.
Yeah, I knew you when you worked for Civ.
Right.
Because I knew some people that knew Civ. I was in a band, Civ was in a band, so we played in kind of the same circles. Right. And I remember you going to work there, and there was an article on the shop.
Yeah.
And I saw your work there. And I thought,
that was 94.
That dude's killing it with the pinup stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that was when a magazine could make or break a career.
100%. And everybody would know who was hot that month.
Yeah.
Because the article would come out, and we all talked about the same
thing. And
thing.
you had time to digest. I mean, that's been one of the biggest complaints, I think, that I've personally had, and people have heard it a million fucking times, but the idea that you're inundated with amazing talent and amazing work over and over and over, daily,
by the minute.
then you discover somebody at 2:00 in the afternoon. By 4:00, you're on to 5 other people, and the guy from 2 is already lost. He's already forgotten.
The internet has shrunk your relevance.
It's eaten it up alive.
It has, right. And you used to have to wait a month at a time for a magazine to come out, and you would very much focus on just that guy. And before I started, I was into tattoos, and I remember when Shotzi's article came out, I was like, I wanted to see that guy so bad because of the beauty of his work, and I was like, this guy seems so cool. And I walked around for literally a month or 60 days saying, I'm going to go see Shotzi. And
exactly.
Go see Shotzi.
And it's funny because the magazines at that time, whenever they got somebody like a Shotzi Gorman in it, it was kind of a weird twist on things because there was still cliques and clubs that you could be part of. But a lot of, like, Shotzi was one of those guys, like, when I did the interview with him, it was kind of like, you were the one that wasn't really well liked. Like, there were people that liked you, but for the most part, there was a lot of people that just disliked you that were more like traditional tattooers. You know, like the Ed Hardys and stuff. Like, him and Ed, supposedly, they banged heads.
Sure, because Shotzi was a new school guy to what Ed was bringing to the table at that time. And there was definitely some people
it's funny. I don't even consider him the new school. He's the artiste. Like, he is like where Ed kind of had his one foot in that realm, he was still a tattooer. Shotzi was one of those guys that kind of thumbed his nose at the tattooing part of it, even though he was a great tattooer, but he was more about embracing being the artiste. And I think that's what attracted me to him back in the day. And also, people were not shy about saying, like, yeah, fuck that guy, blah, blah, blah. But you couldn't take away what he brought to the table.
That's true. And I think there was a generation of people that came before us that some of them have art school degrees. Like, I used to get tattooed by Pete Coynan, is who I went to first, Peter Rabbit, down in Waterbury. And Peter used to wear a tie to work every day. And he was an educated dude. Like, he was a smart guy. Turns out his brother was Spiderweb.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I had
those
no
two
idea.
dudes were brothers.
Oh, shit.
Peter Rabbit and Spiderweb.
So Spider had done a little bit of time here during the whole shutdown in New York, where you couldn't, where it was underground still. Yeah. But he had done time he was in Bridgeport, though, I think.
He was.
I don't recall.
He worked for Danny.
Oh, Danny Williams.
Down in Bridgeport for a while. And that's right, because that's when they had that whole thing with Annie Sprinkle, because I had worked at Body Graphics with a woman named Gypsy, who was part of that whole 70s contingent of when New York got shut out, and they went and tried to push their way in. And again, I think there was a lot of art school people that came out of that.
Was Gypsy so she wasn't from Connecticut, she was from New York originally? Or?
No, she was from Connecticut, but she worked for a guy named Chuck. You are pulling at my memory strings now, man.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I had Jen Flats on here last 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about female tattooers, and for the life of me, I don't think I brought Gypsy up. We brought up, what's her name, who used to work for Flats, the big broad.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was like in the back of my mind, I'm like, don't forget Gypsy, don't forget Gypsy. And then we kept moving, and I forgot Gypsy.
It's true. I mean, but again, when you look at that, there is a handful of people. Gypsy was one of those people early on who tattooed, because her old man tattooed.
Yes.
And then she picked it up. She had an interior design degree. And she ended up being a fantastic artist who just retired a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But she was one of those women. She also, again, wasn't one of those women who was like, I'm a woman. She was just like, I'm a tattooer.
Yeah. Well, so that's that Julie Moon line. It's like, it was one of those things where you didn't have the benefit of being able to say, I'm a woman. Because if you did that, the guys, the misogynistic guys, were going to put you down.
Put you outside the circle.
But if you fucking played the same game that they did, and you gave them as much shit as they gave you, it wasn't a matter of like you're offending somebody. It was like, no, go fuck yourself.
Yep.
This is how I'm doing it.
That's it.
And they treated you the same.
Carrie Barber the same way.
Yeah, you get treated. You're on the same kind of like level playing.
You had to be. It was a tough male-dominated business, and if you were going to push your way in, you had to hang. And she could hang. Gypsy could hang. And that's...
It's funny looking at today and the fact that so many guy tattooers are pissed at the fact that the women have it easy. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think that because it's the same thing with like women in movies. You know what I mean? These women, they've been put down for so long. So for them to be on a slightly higher ground when it comes to being a female in a trade.
Interesting.
Good on them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's one of those things. I don't necessarily hold it against anybody. I mean, you do what you do. But it is one of those things where it's like, maybe just pump the brakes on the whole sexist thing. And, or not sexism, I guess sexism, not sexist. You know what I mean? Because to me, it just kind of puts down what they're capable of doing as artists.
Yeah, again, I've never viewed it through any other lens than I've always been in a shop with a woman tattoo artist.
Right.
And it was our greatest asset because she brought a different vibe. She brought a different group of people in. She had a different touch to her work. So it was always like, and we have this woman who does this beautiful Native American work. And we have this, look at her animal work. Yeah. And subsequently, ever since Body Graphic's been open, we've never not had a female artist in there.
Right.
All along, we've had Jen was there and Claire was there. And we have a girl, Amanda, there now. But I think it's always been just important to the balance of the shop.
Right.
And again, they offer something different.
Well, and that's a big thing. If anything now, you fast forward fucking 30 years, now it's like if you have a woman. I had somebody tell me that like probably about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And he was like, you got to get a woman in your shop.
It's true.
But dude, it was one of those things where I looked at it from the perspective of, I'm like, first of all, it's fucked up that you say that because that's her only thing that she brings to the table is that she's a female and that she's going to bring in a certain kind of clientele. So I was offended. For women.
You don't bring someone in just because of their gender.
But
they have
that's
to be
exactly what a lot of people were doing.
I gotcha.
It bummed me the fuck out to hear somebody say that. Looking back on it, I know where he's coming from. But to me, that's not. It's tough. That's a tough thing, especially when you're working with guys that have been doing this as long as I have. And
who was it for you that turned the corner and you looked at their work and said, "That's blowout work," and I don't care that she's a woman? Or,
Julie Moon. Julie Moon, like it's for me personally. And again, we had Big Cindy, Little Cindy on Long Island. We had Marguerite, and I will admit I wasn't a big fan of Marguerite's work. Marguerite was one of those women that everything was single needle, a lot of floral stuff, a lot of animals, just exactly you were saying with Gypsy. But for me, it wasn't. It was more. This is gonna sound shitty. It was kind of bikerish. You know what I mean? It's kind of like late 80s.
That's what they came out of. Is that
yes?
Again, they were doing swap meets and car meets, and again, that was the vibe of what was out in the world. So they did that thing.
So I was familiar with female tattooers, but it wasn't until my wife and I was also familiar with Julie's stuff, and Julie to me had that whimsical feel to it, but it had bones in tattooing. Like when when she tattooed, it was a fucking solid tattoo. The piece she did on my wife is fucking gorgeous till this day, and it sits opposite a Tintin tattoo, and they're both slamming in their own right. So for me, it was Julie. And again, she's into the whole hippy dippy thing. Not my thing. My wife adores her woman,
right? Because there's a different connection
that
she's making on a different frequency, and I think that's important. I remember seeing work and thinking, "Oh, that's blowout work," and it was Kim Tsai.
Oh, so Kim
was the one that I was like, "Wow!" I didn't know I had seen her work before I knew she was a female.
Yeah,
and just thought that's awesome work.
I got tattooed by Kim in '97. She did this piece on the back of my arm.
Yeah,
it's still fucking slamming.
Yeah, she's
you know what I mean. And again, Kim tattoos like a fucking tattooer. It doesn't matter. And again, at that time, it was kind of a thing. I think my wife was a little pissed at me that I left to get tattooed because it was in San Francisco. I got tattooed by her. And there was a weirdness, you know what I mean? But it was like, I just wanted to get tattooed by this chick because she was such an amazing... At that time, she was still working for Guy or working with Guy. I don't remember. Or they might have gone off and done Cherry Bomb. It might have been right after she left working for Guy.
That's a good question. It's funny how, as you get older, it's hard to order things in your head.
Yeah, because
you remember the people, you remember the names, you think to yourself, oh yeah, they were at this shop and they were at this place. But as you start to say, okay, now chronologically line it up. Yeah. Ooh, that gets tougher for me every day.
Well, it's again, same thing with conventions. Jimmy was just here and trying to decide, no, this happened here. No, it didn't. It happened here. And I'm like, no fucking way, dude, it happened here. Convention, and again, when you do conventions year after year after year, everything just kind of melts together.
That's true. You can probably remember the thing from your first convention.
Yes.
And again, it all starts to melt together. And when you do year over year over year, you're like, was that the 6th Philadelphia or the 7th Philadelphia or the 8th?
And then you run into weirdness when like Billy Easton and fucking Eddie got together with Tony Olivas, and then Atlanta and fucking Richmond became almost interchangeable shows because they brought the same strippers from one state to another. Yeah. I wonder if, dude, looking back on like human trafficking and all kinds of other crazy shit, oh my God. Like how nothing was ever called into question back then. Most of these guys are dead now, but
terrible.
Fuck, there was some sketchy shit. But it got to a point where you couldn't remember if it was the after party in Atlanta or the after party in Richmond.
And Chris Longo was emceeing everyone.
He was there. He was mayor of Tattooville.
They all run together.
Exactly.
Man. And in fact, you can almost look at those two as like, what was that show in Schenectady?
Oh, the AmJam.
AmJam.
I never went to AmJam.
Oh, well, because it was, again, no offense to AmJam, but it was like a low rent. It was
it was a biker show.
It was a swap meet,
Yeah.
essentially, with tattooing.
Yeah. This is before there were any. I mean, I think you might have had Mad Hatter back then, and Mad Hatter drew a lot more in the way of artists from the UK and stuff, where AmJam was, okay, we're tattooers. Most of them were still bikers.
It was.
You know what I mean? So to them, it was... and again, Tattoo Magazine at that time was a bike magazine that had an article.
But that's the way I thought of it when I started. And then there was the years you're talking about where it was... the tattoo convention was the thing. Yeah. And then you could make a marker. Whenever the first television person got their booth for free at the show, and now then it's just the television people. So
and that's where the clicks and the lines started happening, and everything starts to fracture.
It became a very different thing. Yeah, it became a very different thing. But it used to be a really wonderful thing in that, like you said, there was no internet, so you're using that for exploration.
Yeah.
What new equipment's out there? What new artists is out there? People are being discovered there. They'd come back and say, "Oh, I just went to a show and I met this guy."
Exactly. Yeah.
And you were like, "Oh, I remember going to a show and running across Corey Flatmo."
Oh, God,
and going, this guy's unbelievable. And you didn't know him because I hadn't seen him in a magazine yet. Or, again, his shop was out in the middle of...
he was one of those guys that was so picky about what would get published.
He curated what he put out into the world.
And he still does. I mean, he's still tattooing. He's still crushing it.
But he takes big pieces, big project pieces.
And very few people know who you have to be in like an inner circle to know what he's up to in the moment. You know what I mean?
I believe it.
It was kind of like Dorsey. Like most people don't think Dorsey still tattoos. And he is. He's just not doing it as much as he's painting on the regular.
No, understandable. That's totally understandable.
Well, let's.
Yeah, we can go back.
Let's jump behind a little bit. So, '93, you're working in the shop. You were one of the first people back then that I respected and admired because you took over as a non-tattooer. You and your partner took over that body graphics.
Yeah.
You want to explain how that came about? Non-tattooers, like it's you and your partner.
Yeah, that probably came '96. I worked for a biker guy like everybody. That's who started body graphics. He was a rough and tumble, tough, 1%er dude. And he hired a bunch of young people. Lou Jock, Tim Brewer. He got Paulie from Papillons to come. Right. And we had Gypsy. That was our main crew of people. And he worked us to death. That was the kind of the foray into the business is we got this awesome opportunity.
Right.
And he made all the money. And he did what bikers do with the money. Blew it, got a bar, opened a concert business, did all the things. But he ran that shop into the ground, which was mind-blowing because, we were making good money. I mean, we were doing 30 tattoos on a Saturday and body piercing.
Right.
So we hit a point where, the IRS wanted to know where their money was, and he had to hire an accountant. And that's when my partner came in. That was all the way back then. And he said, you got a great business here. You just got to get rid of the owner. It was like a Michael Jackson situation. Like the best thing for Michael Jackson was passing away because now he's not spending the money. Same thing. This guy had to move on for us to legitimize the business.
Now, how did that come about? How did that conversation come about? Like, I'm assuming you guys were pretty tight.
The biker hired him and said, come in and help me fix this. He had fixed a smoke shop of a friend of his. And he came in and said, we got to pay all these, back bills off. And he just got to work on it and pointed at me and said, do you want to own this shop? And I said, no, I don't want to own this shop because I didn't want to die by the hands of the biker. But yeah, of course I wanted an opportunity to get in there. But I just worked with him. I knew he was smart. He was business-minded, and he said, here's how we're going to do it. And it had to be really, tight. I had to pull all the money every night. I had to make sure the bills got paid. I used to drive to pay the bills so that there wasn't cash floating around. And the biker got tired of that after a while, so it was a buyout deal. He bought out half, and then he bought out the rest, and then I bought in with him, and we went from there. And we still own the shop today.
I know, that's amazing. I think
it's again, we look at each other all the time and say, can you believe it?
Well, and it's funny. This is why I often say, like a lot of old school tattooers are dead set against non-tattooer shop owners.
Of course.
And I think the reason being is everybody assumes that they're in it for their own good, which any business person is obviously. I come from a day and age where if you didn't tattoo, you didn't make money. And that's a bad business. I'm not saying that's the way it should be. Right. That's a bad business plan on my part and other people's parts, But when you're in a shop or been around a shop where you see good people running a shop for good tattooers, but bad business people, that's where you see the benefits of being working for somebody who doesn't do this for a living, because they can spend all their time and energy on running your business. That's why I have a manager here. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's because I ran my shop for, at the time I was partnering with Eric and Julio, but I ran this shop by myself for 7 years.
Yeah.
How we were never audited, and I don't want to fucking jinx myself now, 23 years later, but how we were never audited, how I didn't run this place into the fucking ground, how we didn't, is shocking to me to this day.
But you're a smarter guy than that.
I'm not, because at that time I was so caught up in.
You're not a knucklehead. You
travel. I'm not. I don't consider myself a knucklehead.
You're always reinvesting in your business, which is one of the great tenets of having a business. And listen, that was our idea: is just reinvest in the people, make it a great place to work, and don't come and stick your hand in the till. And again, he was a businessman, so it was easy to learn from him. Is this what you do? You put your money away for the slow months. You put your money away when you get money from gift card.
Especially when your partner has a day job that is capable of running. He's legit. I mean, he's still my accountant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, not for nothing, he knows what he's talking about.
And he's a specialist. Again, he knows this business inside and out at this point. And I was the inside man.
Right.
And again, I wanted to build a culture. I wanted a cool tattoo shop to go to. I wanted the people there to be happy working there. And again, we were young and happy and, until we burned out on each other, which is where Lou makes the jump, and then he went to Dark Side because we knew Eric.
Right.
And Eric Merrill used to come in to get tattooed by Lou.
Yeah.
And to pierce, like he'd come in and we'd kind of do a trade-off. Lou would work on him, he'd pierce some specialty clients.
Right. And
we became, really good friends from that point. And then all of a sudden he popped up one day and said, I've been tattooing. And we thought, oh no, we're going to have to tell our friend that he's awesome, even if he sucks. And he turned out to be awesome.
Yeah.
It was the most bizarre thing. Never in my whole career have I seen somebody get so good so fast as Eric.
Eric came on the scene like a fucking racehorse.
Yep.
Like it's funny because when I met him, he came down to get tattooed by me. I had seen his work when he came in, and I was very impressed.
In New York.
When I was still in New York working for Civ, and because him, Lou, Jimmy Dillon, Apartments came once or twice. They would get tattooed by me at Lotus. We tattooed them. We took them to Philly. We took them to Mad Hatter. I shouldn't say we took them. We all met up there.
Oh, so that's where they met all those guys from Philly? Through you?
Yeah, well, not through me. They were all there. Like, we were all basically there. And the fact of the matter is, Eric didn't need the leg up because Eric already had a name. In my opinion, I say it's Dark Side. But at that time, Eric Merrill was the fucking spear tip of Dark Side.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, if I think if it was left to Lou Jacques and Sean O'Hare, basically what Dark Side would have just been this great shop in Connecticut that nobody else knew anything about. Eric was the one that basically said, no, I'm going to do this convention. I'm going to go to this convention.
Yep,
Joe and I are going to start doing this convention.
The travel made a huge difference.
And basically that's what helped put that on the map. That, and then you have Joey Apartments, great manager.
Yep.
Again, one of the first managers that I got to know that did it full time and did it well. He was the one that went to people's rooms, snapped a photo of the tattoo, developed the film, picked the fucking pictures, mailed it into the magazine. That's what a fucking good manager should do.
He cared about the culture.
Exactly.
He was trying to foster a culture there. And Sean O'Hara was a business guy.
Exactly.
He was a hustler.
Yeah.
And he was like one of my first role models where I said, look at this guy, man. He's got this business going. He's got this body piercing business going. Right. He's got this side hustle in doing websites.
Right.
Like, he had so much going on. And Tim and I both, there were people early on that we looked to. And Sean was one of those people that I was like, oh, I want to be a business guy like him. I want to hustle all the time and get all these balls in the air. And he was someone that I definitely looked up to until I didn't.
There was a huge fall from grace for him.
Unfortunately, because he built an absolute empire.
Oh, dude, Dark Side. What's funny? I remember the day. This is probably less than 6 months before Dark Side takes a shit, and we're in the back, and they had it was Jimmy Dillon's old car back there, and they were wrecking this fucking car.
Yeah.
And at one point, they go to take a group shot, and I had just come to the shop, been there about 3-4 months, and Joey wants to take a picture in front of this wreck of a car. And I'm like, the fuck are you doing? And Joey looked at me, he's like, what do you mean? I was like, dude, you guys are adults. Like, you should put, well, that's the thing. We find that out 3 months later, 4 months later.
They were not
when
adults.
The shit hits the fan hard. And
they were not. Oh, dude, I remember being there one day. Lou and I went down to see Eric, and Budsy was there, and a couple other dudes are there, and they've got 3 or 4 foot switches on the floor, and they got a clip cord, one live clip cord, and they're putting it in their mouth.
I remember hearing this story.
And then stepping on the pedal, and if it went, boom, the light went off behind your eyes, and if it didn't, next guy. It was clip cord roulette.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, these guys aren't screwed together too tight. And that's when Lou knew this was the place for him, because he reached right out and put that clip cord in his mouth and
didn't
stepped
have a
up.
problem with it.
Yeah. And then he said, I saw the white light behind my eyes. And they were just simpatico.
They were definitely, I agree. And it's funny because Sean always kind of like skirted on the outside of that. He was never part of the young guy crew. It was like he was the adult in the.
But he built the
room.
Sandbox and,
most certainly,
and filled it full of
exactly.
toys and said, "Go!"
Yeah.
And he made it a fun, exciting place. But that was a nutty.
It is funny because I while I enjoyed the time I was there was a lot about it that I disliked, and it always shocked me that Eric, Julio, that they managed to get as far as they did. Baxter. Well, Baxter was always like an outlier.
Yeah.
He came after, But it always amazed me that they got as far as they did. But it was because I think as much as they enjoyed the chaos and the fun, they also had an eye on the prize at that time. You know what I mean?
They had a lot of outside interests. They were plugged into a lot of people.
And it was also, I think, the difference between, and again, I'm not taking shots at the rest of the guys at Darkside, but guys like Baxter, guys like Eric, like they always were like, no, I'm here to impress.
Yeah.
Like I'm here to grow. I'm here to impress. I'm here to get better. And I think that's the difference. That's why I think I've always remained friends with Eric. That's why he's still here, which is shocking to everybody. You said the same thing. He's like, oh, Eric Merrill still tattoos? I cannot tell you how many people ask me that. Like we go to any and he did. He disappeared. He got into health. He got into physical things.
And he got low key. It became a job for him.
Exactly.
Also, he had so much acknowledgement so early in his career.
Yeah.
That you do get a point where you're satiated and you say, okay, I don't need all of this outside noise. And that's what it becomes at a certain point.
Most certainly.
No one knows better than you.
Oh, yeah, it's a shit show, dude. And
it
especially in the day and age that we're in now, because it doesn't matter how good you are or what you bring to the table. It's again, I've said it's generational. A lot of it is generational. Yeah. It would have been nice to have something like he's got outside of the whole thing. This way you're not stressed about every little thing that goes on. The differences are, though, I own the shop. I have 7 other guys plus a manager, 8 people that I have to worry about. So when things get rough, I'm not worrying just about me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm worried about me big time. But the fact of the matter is there's 7 other people in here that I have to be concerned about. And that's where it gets kind of crazy because it's like you're carrying more for them. I could simply say, yeah, fuck you guys. You're not into. You're not online enough.
You've never done that.
Oh no, I would never do that. I mean,
you balance all these personalities. I mean, do you think you got any of that from the dark side? Because that was a lot of talented people in one place, and now you've gone on even twice as long as they ever existed with the same kind of lineup of super talented people that all seem to get along.
I come from a school of you treat people the way you want to be treated. So if I want to be left alone and do my thing, then I want that. If I want to be able to go to somebody else's room and say, hey, what do you think of this? I want them to be able to respond, and I want them to know that the door is open on this end for them to do the exact same thing. I mean, the fact
not
that
everybody thinks like that. That's a very evolved, and that's the way we've always thought about the shop is how do we take care of these people?
Right.
When there's a problem, I solve it. Otherwise, I don't get involved in your business.
Right.
I'm going to give you recommendations of how you could improve your business. We're going to do some marketing for you. And the same thing, you lead by example. I think everyone's able to look at you and say, how much level do you want? Look at Joe.
Well,
he's gone all the way up to the top of the ladder.
That's a dangerous thing, though, too, because I came from a time where I traveled a lot. And I don't want to stop traveling. Dude, I'm leaving to go to Detroit this weekend.
You've always traveled.
Yeah, I'm going to Detroit this weekend to see Bob Terrell. And the reason being is because that's where I made my friends, a lot of my friends. You know what I mean? I still have friends on Long Island. I have family on Long Island. I have family here.
Well, you built a clientele that's worldwide.
Well, yeah.
So and again, you have to accommodate those people. I mean, by getting out there and building your name, now it only makes sense that
I think that's
people
why,
are spread all over.
I think that's why what's happening in the business today bothers me so much. Is because where you could rely on hitting the road, making some money, going out and meeting some friends and tattooing their friends and whatever. All of that has changed. None of that is what it used to be. So to
for
see
you
those,
or for everybody?
for everybody, even Jimmy. Like when I talked with Jimmy, was just here. He came up here to make money because he wasn't making money down south.
Because he has clients up here.
Exactly.
Because he's always come up here.
Because
you've
he's
given him
come
a
up
spot.
here a handful of times.
And I'm sure he could go out to Vegas and Cali and work.
It's tough. It is kind of a crapshoot now. It is really kind of a crapshoot now. So, but I'm trying. Like we're doing something next month where we're basically just having a gathering of tattooers. We're not charging anything. It's just 3 fucking days at a friend's shop. We're going to be painting. We're going to be drawing. We're going to be doing, tattooing. We're going to be just talking shit, building machines, whatever. And the idea is just to get people together and say, hey, man, this is how we used to kind of do stuff. It wasn't always about money, dollars and cents. It was just about spreading the information and sharing the information. That's what we're going to be doing at the end of August. Ho down fucking Dayton. Bring it. So we're trying to bring a little bit of that back, but it is one of those things that it is a real sketchy time because a lot of the older people are embracing it, but we're really hoping some of the younger cats kind of take to it as well and want to see what the other side is about. It's kind of about breaking down walls.
Okay, but let's go back to when you were a young guy. Did you want to be let into the party with the old guys? Did you want to be invited in?
I remember the first time. I'm mad at myself because I didn't allow myself to do it. Like, if I got asked to go to the fucking upstairs at the Atlanta convention, it was because I was one of the artists and I was being asked to join. Mm-hmm. And I remember going up, popping my head in for 2 minutes, making the rounds, and leaving before all the chaos, which, by the way, I had no problems with. I'm not into the strippers and the kookiness and drugs and shit like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, guys. But the fact is, it's like I was so set on. Well, I gotta be up tomorrow morning because I gotta finish my drawing for my client that day. So I gave a lot away. I gave a lot up in order to just be a good tattooer.
You just picked a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
At the time, when you talk about the 70s and the 80s, there was only one lifestyle.
Oh, most certainly.
It was that Roy Boy, balls to the wall, going to do it all lifestyle. Yeah. And then I think our generation is the one that started to say, oh, you can be a professional, you can be a traveler.
Oh, yeah. We were the beginning of the art fag.
You can,
straight up.
But you could also, again, party and do what you want to do if you want to be that kind of tattoo artist. And I just think more tracks have opened up. And now there's even more than there was before.
No, there's nothing but now.
But that's curious. I'll be curious if there are young people who are interested in saying, "Oh, I would really like to."
Well, the funny thing is,
more and know more.
We had Randy Randerson here to do a machine workshop, and I was shocked at how many. One tattooer from fucking Connecticut, which kind of cracked the shit out of me. Most of them were coming from Jersey, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts. All came in. He had 8. He had 10 people sign up. 8 people showed up. Yep. One from Connecticut. Doesn't even use toils. But his thing was, hey, man, how do I know what I'm doing if I don't know the other side? Because he came in on rotaries, you know what I mean? Yeah. So he built this machine. I don't know if he's used it. I hope you have,
But you learned something about it.
You learn something about it, and not to mention the fact someone like Randy he's a funny guy. He's an interesting individual, and he's gonna introduce you to stuff that you knew nothing about before. Right. So, and that's what most of these people were. Most of them were, I'd say 3/4 of them were probably rotary people. But they want to learn a little something. Those people exist. That's why I don't think that is ever going to die. I don't think the old school, the coil machine, the making your own flash, that is never going to die. There's always going to be people for it. There just might not be as large of an audience.
Yeah, and it will become, you might get a group of throwback people who decide to act like you acted in the 90s, to do nothing but coil machines. I can see shops popping up that are like, listen, this is the flash wall and that kind of throwback idea. You see that in skating from time to time. Right. Dudes come and throw back. But you'll probably end up with that. With shops that are like, we run it old school, even though I'm 27 years old. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's always going to be those guys. I mean, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, you had every tattooer 29, 30 years old growing a giant fucking beard. I'm like, motherfucker, you'll get there eventually. Don't rush it. You know what I mean? Like everybody wanted to be the old man. Everybody wanted to be Mike Malone. They didn't want to create their own personas.
That's the truth. Everybody wanted to be Mike Malone.
Yeah, because that guy lived fucking life, man.
Yeah, he did. Maybe
it's not a shame the way he went out. I mean, I'm sure it was for people, but
but if you wrote the story of Mike Malone on a napkin, that's the way he goes out.
Exactly. And again, it's one of those things like was the joy of what this business kind of is. You know what I mean? Like it could eat you alive. Or you could live the life that you want. Again, that's becoming harder.
But you lived through this transition period. That's how I tell it to people, is that when I started, it was the Wild West. And when I left, it was an industry.
Right.
And we lived through the changeover, just like the internet. When you started your life, there was no internet.
Right.
There was no cable television. You've lived through those changes.
Well, so
you're a transition generation.
Let's get to that, because not for nothing, you were part of the industrialization of this fucking industry.
I
because so you and Tim, out of nowhere, decided to, not out of nowhere, obviously. Why don't you explain how Pulse,
Sure.
how it started?
We started as a T-shirt company. We had some ideas to make some T-shirts that say, your tattoo sucks, and that type of thing. And that did not float. But Tim always had ideas. He was a tinkerer. He's a mechanic behind being an artist. And he always had ideas about how to make the machines better. And I always, as somebody who looked through the catalogs, thought, these catalogs suck. It felt like they were machinist catalogs.
Yeah.
Spalding had the best catalog. But when you looked at National's catalog, where again, they're sending you a binder out, you better keep that binder.
Yep.
They're not letting you in the door without somebody vouching for you.
Yep.
It just felt very dated. And there was, at the time, Danny Fowler had started to...
Time Machine.
And it was like, oh, this guy's got a cool idea with all the moving parts. So Tim had some ideas about how he'd like to see a machine, made. And that was really the idea that we beveled out the back saddle so that you could put the spring in and it wouldn't ever drift one way.
Right.
And he just thought that was something he wanted to try. So again, I got with him and we pushed through to make a machine. And I remember having like a dozen machines made. Also, we machined them. That was the other big difference.
Now, so you were using machinist.
We went to a machinist.
Is it the same guy that
guy
Jay and everybody's working with now? Yeah.
Yep. And he's the guy who we found through Paulie because he did Papillon's grips.
Through Papillon. And dude, not for nothing, if I would go as, and I might be mistaken on this, but Papillon, in my opinion, made the best like tubes and grips back in the day.
It wasn't Papillon's. It was this guy Kenny.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And Kenny's the best. Kenny used to be an aerospace guy who went off on his own, just like a tattoo artist.
Right.
Opened his own shop, bought his own machine, and he was just this genius miller guy. Once again, in a crossover where, he understood CAD, but everything wasn't CAD. He was hands-on. He learned old school at Pratt & Whitney, making airplane parts where old guys say, oh, here's how to fix it. You just want to put a thing in. And he knew all that stuff. And we got hooked into him, and he said, oh, Paulie, I'll give you a shot. Paulie was Timmy's brother-in-law.
Right.
So he made our first batch of machines, and there was a lot of problems, but we didn't know any better, so we machined them out of a single block, a billet block.
Right.
And it was all one piece. And now all of a sudden I was like, oh, that's a feature, not a bug. And then I started to get the marketing bit of, we throw away more of the metal than we keep.
Yeah.
And the idea that there's no moving parts. And the saddle worked. The funniest thing was we built it, we got it running. Tim was tinkerer. Mike Fitz had showed him a lot, and he was always hanging around Fitz, getting sleeved out.
So I was going to say, Fitz
knew a ton, and he was awesome about sharing his knowledge. He knew Rollo. Rollo had shared his knowledge with Fitz. Fitz used to build those Rollo cutback liners from the Spalding machines. So he was always really cool, and Tim absorbed that. And then we just started the testing process. And since I don't tattoo, I went out and bought every tattoo machine on the market and took them all apart to see if I could put them back together. That was Danny. That was Mickey Sharp's. That was Huck's Machines. National.
These were all like
Superior.
staples of the industry.
And I would just buy the machine and take it apart. I mean, all the way down to the coils to find out what was going on. And little by little, I just learned about the materials. And we started, and gosh, I think we went down to the dark side.
Whose basement was it?
Mine, of my house.
Yeah.
This is like 98. And I think the first machines we sold, we went to dark side.
Yeah,
because we knew Eric, and
that's how I discovered.
Yeah, he probably ended up with like number 2 of the specialist liner. Oh, that's the other thing. We didn't know it was a cutback. Somebody lifted it up and went, "Why'd you guys make a cutback?" And we both were like, "What?" And they were like, and they took the screw and pushed it back, and they're like, "See?" And we were, so we had bad specs to start with.
Right.
But it ended up being a great liner, and then it was through our friendship with Eric and through Eric using that machine and traveling that helped us take off with him. Because he was the person that was using our equipment. The eyeballs were on him. We made him our factory-sponsored pro in the front of our catalog.
So the funny thing was that in the beginning, you could say, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to argue with me on this, but from my perspective, from Eric's perspective, you were probably one of the first companies to sponsor artists. Back in like 98, where Eric started going to conventions, started selling your stuff, and later on down the line, I don't consider myself a sponsored artist by anybody. I hashtag everything.
We've had a lot of
it's a
conversations
friendship,
about that. Yep.
not a fucking sponsorship. Because when people say, well, you guys were sponsored by Pulse, I'm like, no, we were friends with the guys from Pulse. And the idea was to see their product get as big as it could, because it's a product that we use and we fucking believe in. A lot of people nowadays is, oh, we're sponsored by this butter, until that butter stops fucking giving them shit. Then they move to the next butter. Oh, I'm sponsored by this pigment company. Oh, they just cut back. I only get 20% off my pigment. Who's going to give me more? Who's going to give me more for more for less? Whatever.
Well, and people started taking endorsements, and I don't blame them. Again, if somebody was offering me
I get
but that was never our gig. Our gig was to have our friends use it, to make new friends because we were offering them equipment that was good.
And actually use something you fucking believe in.
Well, and that was the idea. And even if you didn't believe in that and you believed in something else, maybe we had something else. Our tubes and tips were high quality.
Right.
And then we had a power supply that we developed.
The power supply is still in that fucking box, dude. I just pulled it out recently.
No shit.
And this is no bullshit. Like everybody knows, I'm getting back into coils over the last fucking year. All my machines, out of everything I fucking got, it was the Pulse machines. I swear to, and I'm not fucking lying right now. The only thing I had to do on those machines, which is an argument, which some people have an argument with, all the rubber O-rings that were between the springs and the A-bar and stuff, all that had to be replaced because it's all dry rotted.
But those are Buna O-rings. I mean, they're going to rot. They're dry rot.
Those machines, I literally spent an afternoon replacing the O-rings, just running them. Out the fucking gate, dude. Those are still right now still daily running.
Because the geometry was all worked out ahead of time, and the fact that they were machined and went together, there wasn't a lot of, which is another reason why young people liked us, and we got a lot of run with that, because when you did get our machine, it was tuned and ready to go. You didn't have to dick around with it a lot. It wasn't Danny's machine, which again I liked because I learned all about geometry.
Right.
But they were terrible machines because
everything came loose.
Dude, it's all fasteners, and then you're going to vibrate
the machine down too hard. It's just like everything fucking.
Yeah, so it didn't make sense. I mean, he wanted you to Loctite it and whatnot. But I love the idea that he was like this science-based guy.
Well, again, he had Dave Long at the time. Remember Dave Long with his power supply, and Dave's power supply back in the day was a pretty solid one. So what I was getting at with the power supply, which by the way, if you've ever owned a Pulse power supply, fucking tremendous power supply. I'm pretty certain Eric is still using his. My wife is still using hers.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. The one in the box here, I mean, I'd not been using for quite a while, but it's still the same fucking one. And it's still one of again, this is probably not a good thing to say, but a lot of my machines back in the day, because they had such a huge fucking throw on them, they ran between like say 9.5 to like some
our
up to
machines
12
took a lot of juice.
Yeah.
Clamping that back spring down took more juice to get it to break and to go. So that was always a weird thing to me, too. People would be like, oh, your machine runs at 9, 10, 12 volts. I'm
the machines are running at 2 and 4 volts.
Okay, but I'm like, can you not spare the extra energy? Like, what? It was just such a weird metric by which people measured machines, the voltage going
But this is how fucked up the business is now, because you've got companies like Critical, and I'm not sure about Critical. I shouldn't say Critical, but other suppliers, power supplies, that don't go above 11 volts.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? So I've got a power supply that I can't even use because it won't give me enough juice to run that machine.
That's interesting.
Now, granted, I'm not going to say that's not a fault of the machine, but when I bought that machine fucking 25 years ago, and I ran that machine for 15 fucking years, that was my main fucking machine. Now all of a sudden it's like I gotta go back to my original power supply because the power supplies and equipment today won't run it. You know, now I'm sure there's gonna be people arguing. It's like, well, just fucking change the way your machine runs. You haven't used the machine. It's fucking fantastic. It's one of the executives. The executive is one. The specialist is one. Like the Gatsby is another one that I fucking I adore. You know what I mean?
And these were machines that again we tried different materials.
Right.
We sunk the yoke.
Yes,
on the
machine. I think that's on the Gatsby. One of my Gatsbys has got a sunk.
But we would just sit around for hours in the tattoo shop thinking up all these ideas. We had the clamp, the hasp bicycle style, clamp.
Was a great idea. It's such a pain in the dick, though.
Totally understand. And we ended up changing it, but that was an idea that came to me because I had spent so much time as a kid in BMX and freestyling that, I picked that up from a bicycle.
Well, having said that, it's still on all my machines.
Oh,
like, as funny. Much as I'm going to be a dick about, as much as I have hated that thing since the day I got my first machine from you. But to your credit, it is still on all those machines.
The idea is if you do get it exactly right and you just open it enough and close it. But I understand the minute you drop it and it drops down and takes the tension off.
The problem we run into today
hassle.
is because disposable tubes are all different sizes. At that time, too, if I got tubes from you...
Oh, that's a great point. Right. Yeah. If you have your own tubes and didn't screw around, you were good. If you had communal tubes where machines were cranking them down, that's where everybody had the problem. They'd call me and I'd say, communal tubes or your own tubes? And then I would try to talk people into getting just get your own shit and keep it nice.
Exactly.
But you're right. Yeah. Listen, there's all precision stuff, too. I mean, the guy who was making our stuff was doing it in 2000s.
Right, exactly.
So we were a precision-based company. So that idea, I didn't think of a lot of those things.
No, and it's one of those. So now, no offense, that is the difference sometimes between a tattooer who runs that and a person who knows how to run a business.
Yes.
And I think that's where you start running into, like, as a manager, I know I deal with it with Tiff here at the shop, where she's like, we're going to do it like this. I'm like, no, we're not. And she's just like, what do you mean? I'm like, okay, these guys have been tattooing for 20 years. They're not doing it.
Oh, right.
She's just like, well, this is easy. I'm like, no, I don't care how easy it is for you. They are not going to change. And that's the thing. And you often wonder, man, would it be better if I had a bunch of tattooers that just tattooed 5 years and you tell them? But I'll be honest with you, I guarantee that kids that are tattooing 5 years are probably more picky than the motherfuckers here.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You know? So,
and when you say that too, but that was the push and pull of Pulse, is that Tim, for the time he was, again, Tim wasn't there for the whole time.
And I want to get into that.
Yeah, he left at a certain point, but I mean, he was the driver of those things. But that's why when I started driving the company, I was super dependent on you. I was super dependent on anybody who'd give me feedback.
Yes.
Because I didn't tattoo. So when I was developing products or putting things out into the marketplace, and even if I was just taking advice, especially when we got into needles, that was tough because I was blind to what actually worked.
Right.
And I wanted to satiate everybody around me. So I would ask you, and then I'd ask this guy, and then I'd ask that guy. And, the opinions started to vary, especially as I added equipment and we started to carry pigments and disposable needles, then disposable tubes. And it became a grind. It was very hard to please everybody. It's also how I missed the opportunity to get off on the rotary off-ramp.
Right.
I remember Next Gen coming out with that machine, and I was fascinated by that. The technology was A+.
Yeah. Well, you had the guys, I think they took their notes from whatchamacallit, Roy, what the fuck's the name of the company? Neotat. Like, Neotat was one of those clunky, shitty-looking machines, but you could not take anything away from the way that fucking machine ran. And again, I think that's where it started to change, where it wasn't about finding the nuances of machines. Here's a machine that works this way. This is the only way it fucking works. It's not going to work any other fucking way. Now you need to make it work. And that's the difference.
Okay, but now work backwards with me and tell me where we made this change. There were some beautiful machines. Again, the pneumatic machine was the one, to me, that made the Pneuma is the one that made people think, oh,
it put rotaries back on the map.
Right, this could be something. And it was really impressive. Their mistake was they wanted to run it off air.
Exactly. But in my opinion, I think the pneumatic machine is what brought the rotary machine back to the table.
I agree.
Rotaries have been around forever.
I agree with you. That and Nico.
Well, Nico was the one that helped.
Nico was the person, like the Eric Merrill for Pulse, that was young, super talented, and using that machine.
And I don't think he had the same deal I don't think he had the same admiration. I shouldn't say this, and I don't know for certain, but I don't think he had the same love for Carson and the Neotat brand as we did and Eric had for Pulse. Yeah, I think what happened was that was at the beginning of, oh, here's a DVD. I'm going to do a DVD, and I'm using the Pneuma. And then all of a sudden it's like, I got to do color realism like Nico, and I need to buy a Pneuma. And then it turned into something.
And then it blew up. Yeah, well, again, I was not in it for the... You were my friends. Yeah. I wanted to help my friends. I wanted us to grow.
And it was the same way.
I wanted them to grow. And again, that's the culture I worked, is that, the more friends I make, the more opportunities I want to create for them, which is where the Flash came from.
Yes.
Is that I had friends who wanted to do Flash. Flash was this expensive investment in 1,000 sheets at a printer, and you had to be Jack Rudy to move that kind of shit. And then Jack even had to hustle that stuff at just about every convention you went to.
And at that time, that was the only way to move flash. Was
that
at
was.
conventions.
You had to make, and you had to be big time.
Yep.
You had to be J.D. Crowe, and you had to go through Spalding if you had that kind of volume.
At that time, you had Bullseye had come out. You
Yeah.
had Cherry Creek had come out. Oh, no, Cherry Creek was after. No,
Cherry Creek was before Bullseye was after.
Right.
Because Bullseye ran on the same thing I ran on, which was I had figured out the quality of printers had become so good that I could do a print on demand.
Yes.
And that's what I did. I bought a Xerox printer. It was a huge investment.
Yeah.
I bought the right paper, the right stock. Boy, you remember how we would go
Yeah,
through.
dude.
Like everybody would come down. I'd scan your stuff in, and then we'd spend hours trying to get the color.
Exactly. Getting
dialed
everything to
in.
look the right way. Where before, we would just go to fucking Kinko's.
Yeah, but
The
again,
night
I
before
wanted
convention.
a higher value.
And you nailed it. And that was... I think that's what you brought, for me personally, in the late 90s, early 2000s. What you brought to the table was professionalism and a quality
Thanks.
that very few people had back then.
I care about
And
quality.
that's a big
I
fucking
always
deal.
cared about quality,
Yeah.
no matter what in my life.
Right.
I'd rather do it good once. I'd rather make the investment once. And that was the idea with this. But the thing that it unlocked was two things. A, you didn't have to make a huge investment. I could just print 5 sets,
Right.
10 sets. I could print in the morning.
Right.
And the other thing is it opened up wide so I could say, well, I'll take your flash set on. I don't know if it's going to sell, but I gave
But at
it a
that
chance.
point, and you're also giving somebody the opportunity to take their stuff to a different market. You know what I mean?
It was
and again,
huge.
it
Some
may
people
not sell.
some people blew up who I didn't expect. Some people who were supposed to be huge didn't move anything. But it was really freeing, the idea that, and also I didn't require anything from you. It was just a straight deal where
transaction.
I was going to pay for it. I was going to send you a check at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Everybody liked the checks.
Dude, I made a ton of money off of that stuff. I remember we introduced you to Martin Lacasse.
You did.
And Martin, I mean, he's a I'm looking at his book right now. He was a fucking beast. The amount of flash, the amount of artwork that guy created just blew my fucking mind. Like, I thought, and again, I never thought I created a lot of flash because at the time there were people like Jack Rudy, every couple of months he put out a set of flash,
Yeah.
But Martin was a fucking beast.
He's a machine.
And the guys from Old City, like Josh Hoffman, you had Dave Fox. These are guys that, like, they had their own voice and they were fucking machines. They just wanted to create, and I think that's amazing.
And I met them through Eric.
Yes.
That's the friendship tree.
Yeah,
that
Josh
grows from
Josh
this.
and Eric were tight.
Josh and Eric were tight, and Martin and Josh had come up to see him and get tattooed, and we had pizza. And again, I dropped some equipment on them. We started to talk. We became friends. Josh came up and tattooed me, and then all of a sudden it's like, and Martin's got all this artwork,
Right.
And it was like, I could sell that guy's flash, and then it was one thing led to the next, and the next, and again, that's how Pulse Flash grew from that. But you were the flagship. No one sold more flash than you.
Well,
so again, I'm always appreciative that you brought that. You let me sell it, and again, we were never. I could see where people would think you were sponsored. We did a ton of stuff together.
Yes.
We were very
but
connected.
we were always the first ones to simply say, no, they're just good friends. And
It's
and
true.
I think that's something.
But I was always okay with that because you know what? I wasn't cutting you a check to say anything.
Right.
The checks I was cutting were just I was managing your artwork.
Well, the way I looked at that was the fact that if I didn't like it, I wouldn't use it. I think that's the
thing
one
that makes
thing
it
that was
legit.
hard to sell back then was the fact that
It's true.
Like people say, why are you using pulse machines? I'm like, have you ever used one? Then shut the fuck up. Because and that's the truth. It's like, and again, I get it. It's definitely not for everybody. You know what I mean?
No,
for me personally, I had machines all over the place. Like I had an Aaron Kane. I had and it's funny. And no offense, Seth, I had never had a Seth Safari machine that I like. I've got 4 in my collection. Only one is working. Is a daily runner, and it's because Jay from the new Pulse, from the bought out Pulse, is the one that rebuilt it for me. I could never use the machine before. So it's what you're used to using as machines.
It's true.
I came up with Papillon. I came up with Mickey B's.
Yeah.
I eventually I could afford Mickey Sharps, but the Mickey B's to me were the budget version of a Mickey Sharps. But those machines are fucking killer. Those are 2 more. I have 5 Mickey B's, and they run better than the Mickey Sharps.
Is your Sharps one of the original T-dials?
Yes.
Took the phone?
I've got those are from 90. I can't remember if they're 93 or 94. I think I have 93, 94, 96.
That's a T-dial machine. Yeah. And the Mickey
But
B's
I also
were
have a
good.
couple that are unsigned because I think someone told me Mickey was in jail at that time. So I'm not 100% sure. It would have been early 90s. Or like
That's
it was like I got my first Mickey Sharps machines in 90. I'm pretty certain it was the end of '93. It was before I left the first shop I worked in. Right after we got a bunch of Mickey B's. We bought a bunch of Mickey B's.
He used heavy-duty wire on the coils. I remember taking that machine apart.
Yeah.
And people losing their mind because they're like, I can't believe you took that machine apart. And I'm like, well, I just want to see why it's working. But, again, that was when those machines were $250.
If that.
And you had to get them from England.
Yeah. When we first, the Mickey B's machines we bought, we got a phone call early morning or late night. And we're like, oh, the Mickey B's machines, we can get these for like $100 a piece.
Yep.
And we're like, what? Like, I'll take 4. Like literally, and we all bought. So we bought like 12.
Right, everybody bought as a as
we
a
bought
gang.
like 12 machines.
I remember that too. People making an order and everybody jumping in on it and saying, yeah. I want
and the
one
Mickey
too.
the Mickey Sharps by that point, the cat was out of the bag, and I think they started at $180.
Yeah.
But this is also the same time that Papillon is selling swing gates for like $150. Those brass swing gates, Well, that was my first machine.
And that was interesting, too, because they had a lineage, because Jonesy used to make coils for Papillons,
Right.
and when he was in Hartford a million years ago, they knew Bill Jones, and that's how Mike Nicholson, who owned Papillons.
Right.
And this is the lineage you follow, and it's funny, because I often thought Connecticut is a weird place for tattoo machines to come out. Like, it was such a focused area. Huck Spalding was in Voorheesville, New York.
I don't remember.
I was
gonna say you stayed in touch with them.
Yeah, but it was just always weird to me that Jonesy built in Connecticut and Nicholson came from Connecticut.
Connecticut with everything is like the redheaded stepchild of New England.
It's strange, right?
Of the Northeast, not even New England,
but
the
you know
Northeast.
What? But if you think about it, it's just because New York got supplanted with the band.
Yeah.
Otherwise, all of this stuff probably would have happened in New York, and there would have been huge, right down on
because at that
Chinatown
time,
or somewhere. But it's just because of the band for all those years kept it from growing.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it just kind of moved over. And the other way, Pennsylvania.
New Jersey.
National and how big Philly was. Yeah. It was all just a push from New York not being able to tattoo for all those years. But I'm thankful because I'm from Connecticut, so.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
You have a history with it all.
Yes.
So, and then shortly after, when did you actually stop working in the shop and do full-time Pulse?
We opened a second Body Graphics in '99, which was tough because Massachusetts opened up.
Right.
And half my clientele was from Massachusetts, as were half the artists. Yeah. So to not lose that business, I was like, we got to open a shop up there. So we went up there in '99, opened Body Graphics 2 in Springfield. And then I made the concentrated effort to pull away from the shop. And it was only when I could prove that we could have like an order a day.
Right.
Because I was taking your appointment, and then I was taking a call. You need 2 tubes, 4 needles. Okay, and you're coming in Thursday I did that for a couple of years, and that was crazy. With Tim tattooing, we would come back to my house. My wife would make us dinner at 9:00 at night. We'd work till 3 a.m.
Right.
And then just do it all over again. Right. And again, I love it for a young man. I wouldn't love it now, but
when did Pulse become brick and mortar?
2001.
Right.
Because I remember we signed the lease in like September. And then September 11th happened, and I couldn't get my catalogs. The catalog was on its way, the first catalog, and everything got shut down. And I used that catalog company the whole rest of my time because they found a way to get my catalogs off, get them on a truck, and get them to me because everything had shut down. Right. And I was always so impressed with that kind of effort that they had my business forever.
So when you guys were you mentioned before, and this is something I did want to touch on, when you guys were getting needles on the bar, this is at a time where, because to me, and I just heard somebody say something about this today, when cartridges became a thing, my biggest complaint with cartridges, because Cheyenne was the first one to really kind of push big for the cartridges, and they were using bug pen, tight fucking needles, fucking hated them. I used them a handful of times, always hated them.
Because you grew up with something that was a little more dynamic.
I grew up with something that I can pick.
Yes.
That's a thing. I grew up with something that if I needed a wider 3 or a super tight 3, it could be made.
Well, you grew up making needles.
So
Didn't you?
I did technically, but I didn't. My wife was making my needles.
But you understood. Yes,
I understood the difference.
Right, and you understood what you wanted in needle, how far down you wanted the solder to come.
Exactly.
Whether you wanted
But you could go to a company.
Sharps, whether you wanted bug pins. I mean, it was a very dialed in, very personal thing.
You could go to a company to do that for you. Like when we first started doing with demographics, when we first started dealing with Unimax, these are things that's like, I want an open 3, I want a tight 3, I want a bug pin, fucking whatever.
Yeah.
And you could order the things you needed. you said the same thing. Were your needles at the time, because you were dealing with industrial strength, yeah?
Yep.
Where were they getting? So the sharps were coming from overseas, right? Or,
yeah. Well, here's the beauty. Maria, who owned that company, who was another one of those people in my life who was like this great businesswoman who had taken over her family's needle company.
Out of Wallingford, right?
Yeah, and her family did hypodermic needles for the medical industry. Then she saw an opportunity to get into piercing, and then she saw an opportunity to get into tattoo. But the beauty was her family had done needles forever.
Right.
So she knew a ton about needles and about business. She was so great to me. Just like, oh, there's a good idea. Here's a good idea. And I'd go to her place and hang out. And I'd be like, what's that? What's this? The packing and just the whole supply chain of it. Yeah, that's funny you bring her up, man. I haven't thought of her in years.
Well, because
she was
to
so
me,
awesome to me.
Your needles on the bar at the time were fucking tremendous.
Yeah, that's where we started. We started with loose needles from her because we sold. We started making needle bars. You want to talk about a nightmare night? Make just needle bars all night with the jig and the press and the turn. And Tim and I would be so miserable after a while. We made them, and then we found a kid to make them. Then she provided the needles, and we were selling all the stuff. They weren't on the bar.
Right.
Then she came along and said, I think I can get them pre-made. And she had a company that was pre-making them, but again, they were such good quality.
Yeah.
And I was buying the pre-mades from her, and she was doing them for us under a sub-brand.
Yeah, I think I used those needles a good chunk of my career, probably from like.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife was making my needles when we were up in New Hampshire, and then when we moved to Connecticut, I think at that point is when I pretty much made the transition to the
and I was so invested in that, developing that, because it was such a hard thing, and people hated it. And this is a great lesson that I think of all the time. On my desk, I have my needle jig. Do you remember the needle jig I designed?
Oh, yeah, dude. I just saw somebody just posted pictures of it that they had in their workshop.
I was so proud of that because that was my idea, the idea of having a head that go in and spun. Because I watched so many people make needles for so many hours and change it in and change it in and change it in. And the jig from Papillons was good, but it wasn't great. And then when I was like, if we could just make it so it turned. And I thought that idea up, I don't know, about 6 minutes before the Chinese started making needles and selling them. And if I had had that 10 years before.
You would have crushed it.
I would have crushed it.
It is a shame how innovation is so quickly forgotten.
Sure.
Because of convenience.
Yeah, and you're right. You get used to it. And I've learned through my other jobs in life that this was the right thing to happen at the right time. Making your needles in the back, you could not make them as consistently as the Chinese can make because they have a burgeoning middle class. They do manufacturing really well.
Yeah.
And when you started to see after the first couple waves came through, I was like, do they have a machine? We all thought they had a machine.
Right, you didn't realize it was being done by hand.
And there wasn't a machine. There was no secret machine, but we swore. I mean, I would loop them and look at them, and I just couldn't believe.
I think that's why we're seeing a lot of stuff with, like, I deal with electric ink now. And a lot of the stuff is all made in-house. It's funny because there's guys there that are arguing because they just motherfuck Paulo. Like, fuck that guy, blah, 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 blah.
You still talk to Paulo?
Yeah, I still do. He's another one, dude. Like, the fact of the matter is, until you find me better product, I'm going to continue to work with the guy.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and again, it's the same fucking thing.
Yeah, again, it's good. He's just tough.
He's incredibly tough. He's hated there, dude. Hated. And it blows my mind. I've had people from Brazil fucking write me in DMs and like, fuck him. All of his stuff is China bullshit, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you've never been to the factory.
Yeah, no, I know it's not. It's just, that's a very difficult company to deal with. And it's a very difficult country to get product exported from.
Most certainly.
And again, that created a rift between us.
Yeah.
When you brought that into the...
I tried, that was the biggest bitch. Like, when we tried to get into the ink thing, it was because Jimmy and I had gone there. We helped them create the palette.
Yep.
We blended all of our own pigments, the color palette and stuff. And we thought it was going to come here and take the world by storm. This was after Eternal, unfortunately.
It was really good pigment.
It was the best. I don't give a fuck what everybody says. It's still the best.
But the problem was, at the time, we couldn't get it.
We couldn't get it out of the country. Can't compete.
And the price was, it was too tough. Paulo was trying to come here and make it in the U.S., and that was a hard transition because I had made the choice. I remember you calling me and saying, hey, we're here in Brazil, you, me, and Jimmy. And I said, and I'm sure to your disappointment, nah, not for me.
We ended up having to do it ourselves through you.
Yes,
as
but I was the distributor. And again, that's what created the rift, is that as the distributor, I just wanted to take it from you and cut my piece and ship it out to your people. And at the time, I wish I was in a better position. Again, I was also protecting my business to make an investment at that time.
So here's the problem with Paulo, and this is the thing that even Jimmy, till this day, because Jimmy doesn't talk to him anymore either. And he's just like, he's always busting my chops about how Paulo did this and Paulo fucked you and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, he didn't. The thing with the thing I've noticed with Paulo is, if you've got the money to invest and you buy from him, and then he's out the picture. That's the thing with Paulo. Like with my machines, when I did my brick house machines.
Oh, yeah.
The brick house machines sold. I bought
those are cool
X amount of machines. I sold X amount of machines.
Yeah.
That was it. Paulo had nothing else to do with it. He sold me something wholesale. I sold it retail, and I made my money. The same thing with the pigment. The failure with the pigment was, I do not have a young enough, I can't say respectable enough name, but not a big enough name to say, no, these pigments are better. If you've never used them, try them. I'll promise you they're better.
Who has a bigger name than you?
A lot. At that time, you're looking at guys like Nico who are coming down the pipe. They're doing, they have 12 fucking browns.
He was the hot guy. Well,
but that's what eternal fucking background. Dude, so here's the thing, and this is the other problem. So the first time I ever had somebody give me a mad break, besides you, on buying something was Eternal. I basically had gone to it was at the Detroit convention. I don't remember what year it was, but this is when it was when we opened up on Chapel Street. I would go to conventions. I would always buy t-shirts for the guys. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to buy t-shirts. It's fucking, nobody wears them. I don't even fucking know. So I'd go there, and Tramp had just released Eternal. And I'm like, hey, let me get a full set of pigments. And I ordered a full set of pigments. Come back, I left it to the guys. At that time, they're hooked on Star Bright. I'm still using my powders and a handful of Easy Glow.
You getting powders from National?
This is the stuff. We bought powders from National and Spalding. And Corey
Spalding had really S&W.
Yeah, dude, phenomenal.
His raw pigment was
dude, I
really
had
good.
green and yellow and blue from, white from S&W. I had a 5-gallon bucket of yellow pigment from fucking Stanley that we mixed the shit out of.
The S&W yellow.
Yeah. So I used that stuff from 2000 to probably 2007. Because I made the complete switch over to Easy Glow and Electric in like 2008, 2009. I still had one or two colors that were powder.
That sounds right. That's funny that you... And again, Tramp made a good pigment. The problem was the cat was out of the bag. All the pigments were good. Mario's pigment was good too.
No, Mario's pigment is still
It was... Okay, you could not like it, but it was still a good pigment.
I mean, technically, you could...
The pigment those guys in New York put out was pretty decent too.
Well, that was the thing. With Eternal, like, I bought the stuff for the guys, and they started using it because they were using Star Bright at the time. They'd slowly switch over, and they were like, man, this stuff is really good. Can you order more? And I'd be like, all right. I call up, and I get a phone call. I get the thing, and then all of a sudden, it's like, I give the order, and she's like, okay, we're gonna send it. I was like, well, how much is it? And she goes, don't worry about it. I'm like, what? And she goes, no, we got you. Don't worry about it. I'm like, no,
Yeah, but that's
and she goes,
smart.
hold on. Tramp gets on the phone, and I was like, Tramp, what the fuck, dude? Like, I just ordered a bunch of pigment. You're going to send it? And they're like, yeah, dude, we got you. And I'm like, no. I'm like,
well, if you like it and you're using it, why not?
Well, but here's the problem. I wasn't using it. They were using it. I was buying for them. And he was just like, he goes, Joe, when you came to the table at that convention, when you left, we had a line of people looking to buy pigment.
Because people are looking over your shoulder.
They just see somebody who else is that somebody else is using.
That's
but I thought it got to a point, like after the third time, I'm like, listen, from now on, you guys, you make your own introductions. I'm not doing this anymore because I'm still not. Dude, I don't use Eternal.
Well, because everybody wants you to use it, and then they want to tell everybody. Also, you're talking about an interesting point too, where when we came in, we were a machine company, we were a boutique machine maker who then grew in these other directions. And when you talk about Eternal, they were a pigment company who just had to focus on pigment.
Exactly.
And the business got very kind of sectionalized.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden specialized. And then Mario would come in and say, oh, I just have more pigment. This idea of the supply company being a full service Huck Spalding supply company definitely changed. And again, the rotary machines came in with just the rotaries.
Even Mario,
Cheyenne.
when Intense tried to get into the supplies by making machines and this, that, it failed. Well, they only sold pigment.
Because it fell backwards.
Yeah.
People don't let you come in and change your skirt very much. Again, we were machine makers. We came in on the right thing, and we were able to go to the electronics. But when we went to needles and stuff, we got a lot of pushback because we weren't making the needles. And And when we went to the pigment, when we had the established pigment, that was basically, a deal I had with Papillons.
Right.
That they were making a mix for us when I tried to break into that market. It was impossibly hard.
Yeah.
Because it was like the pigment wars.
Right.
At that time.
Well, because at that time you were either old school or you weren't.
Yeah,
or you were new and nobody cared.
Right, and everybody talked about, dispersion versus powder, and you had the mix, the old school guys. Who made the pink that everybody wanted?
Oh, that Japanese pink. It was
Aaron
like,
Kane used to use it.
Yeah.
And I was like, is it going to get this specific? That one company's just like, we make the pink, we make the green.
Well, look at that. Again, word gets out. I remember Tony Ciavara talking to when he switched over to Fusion, and they were just like, man, you use all... Oh, no, excuse me. It wasn't Fusion. My bad. It was before Adam left Eternal. And he's using all Eternals. And the only color that he was using that was still Starbright was the yellow.
Yeah, the yellow was great.
And Adam said, he goes, man, I see you use every one of our colors except for yellow. And he's like, why don't you use our yellow? And he literally, Tony looked at him, he goes, because your yellow fucking sucks. He's like, you want me to use your yellow? Figure out what this is and make it like that. And to their credit, they did exactly that. They probably went to Papillon.
Yeah, it's just a different mix. I mean, again, the thing about Papillons is those pigments come wet; they're predispersed.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's super saturation thereof, and then
they're easy to put in the skin.
You're right. You're deciding how to put the glycerin in or the water, and then it's what you get used to. Because there are dudes who like to use a big needle, hammer in a big pigment. Yeah. It's not a big deal.
It's completely different.
Right.
Even
it's
with
how you work and what you're doing and how much you work in the skin. But and Easy Glow, I believed in. It was definitely a great pigment.
Dude,
the problem was we couldn't get it, and that's where you and I had the frustration point. Yeah. Is that we couldn't get it. We had a huge demand for it. You couldn't get it in fast enough, and then it felt like I was working for you.
Yeah.
And it's same thing with. And again, I'd be remiss not to say, that was Jessica's falling out. Is Jessica from Pulse, who became my partner when Tim moved on, and essentially was the person I built the business with from there on. And I feel like more people know her than know me or Tim.
Right.
It became very hard to be like, we want to see you succeed, but we didn't work for you.
Well,
and I think you saw the other side of it, where you said, "You're taking my check. You do work for me."
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where
there does come a point where it's not meant to be mean, but it was the same issue I had with Tattoo Now with Gabe, when Tattoo Now basically was like, "Oh, I need you to do this, and this," and Gabe got a fucking hair up his ass, and I'm like, "Dude, go fuck yourself."
Well, he had a lot of clients. That was the problem. He didn't have a lot of people.
But the fact of the matter is, I was like the second fucking website that went fucking live for them.
There's no question.
So when I ask you to fucking do something, and I'm paying you to do it, you fucking do it. With you, it was different. I never felt that way, and if it did come off that way, it was not my intention.
No, but I do. But you remember.
Oh, no.
It was a contentious time.
I totally understand.
And again, the problem was, again, I think there was a day you showed up and it was like, why isn't this gone out? Why isn't this? And I think Jessica took it as, we don't work for you.
Right.
And it's true. And I think you saw it the other way as, I am paying you. So
well, again, because to me,
we did take the money. And so again, we should have.
To me, it was the same thing with the books. And we should get into that.
Yeah.
Not that I want to drop this, but in my opinion, it was kind of the same thing. It's like, yeah, dude, like we have a product. You're getting a percentage to move that product. So we need to get it out there. And that was my concern, was if we didn't get it out fast enough, I know how fickle tattooers are, and then they're done with you. And in all honesty, and again, it's not a shot. Well, it is a shot, I guess. That was part of the problem with Pulse, was when things started to slip, it got to a point where people were just like, okay, we can't. There's too many other things. There's too many other people to pick from now. We're moving on.
Yes.
And I think that's what now with the publishing.
That's legit.
Now, I mean, again, and if you want to continue with that, we can continue with that. But
but that's legit. I ran a boutique business.
Right.
That was very exciting at the front. I think I did a good job marketing it.
Fuck yeah.
Again, I brought in the things that I wanted to see. Really high quality catalogs. I wanted stickers to go out from good artists. I wanted good t-shirts. I wanted all the things that I grew up with in skateboarding and BMX. I wanted that. I poured that in. And again, that was what my kind of push forward was.
And it was a great formula.
But the business part became very difficult when I had to run a whole company. When we got to the disposables, the needles,
it becomes nickel and dime.
Well, dude, it's just money in, money out.
Yeah.
Like the more things that are coming in, the more I have to tie up money in. And again, it became very difficult to be a boutique business that pushed back on becoming a larger business. Yeah. Also, nobody wanted me to be a larger business either. People wanted you to stay in your box because, you took a kingpin who came in small and then grew and then merged and then got bigger, and everybody was like, oh, that's okay. But when I tried to move, people would come in and say, hey, man, why are you selling pre-made needles? I thought you guys were just going to do machines. And I got a lot of pushback. And by the way, go all the way back to when this started. I think we came out and put an ad in like Tattoo Review magazine, spent thousands of dollars. And it was like our first machine. And in that same magazine, Jack Rudy wrote a scathing editorial about how anybody starting out, people tattooing, selling equipment, having a supply company are ruining the business.
Yeah,
that like was in the same thing.
That was a good point of saying that's beginning of the end almost.
And Jack, and again, people listened to Jack, and that was one of those things where people were like, yeah. And I was like, oh, here's my machine company. Yeah. So again, I feel like I've been pressed and pushed. And that was a hard time. And again, you and I burned ourselves out on each other as well.
Oh,
we did a lot.
I mean, we did a lot, and that was the thing. We started. When the hell was the first book published? Like, I was the first book that you guys after.
Nope. So
the first. Oh no, my bad. You're right. Abrasions.
Abrasions was the project. So Abrasions was the first book I put out, and it happened like this: Crowfoot,
Sean Crowfoot
had the idea, and he got with B.J. Johnson, Soba, and they were going to have the show, get the skateboards, and do the thing. And I had become friends with Soba. When we started, not soon after, Soba started his Soba machines, and he called me and said, "Can you spin my coils?" And I said, sure. And he sent me this little thing that looked like a graffiti can of Krylon paint.
Yeah.
And I made the tops silver, and they became like his thing. And we had a great relationship. And that kid is a hustler.
Fuck yeah.
No one is a greater hustler. Like in my Hustlers Hall of Fame, he gets a slot right there, and Derb's there, and you're there, and Sean O'Hara. And hopefully, again, I come up in the conversation because I just have always revered people who will do the most with what they have and do the next thing and be autodidactic and learn and get better. Anyway, that's how I knew him. Yeah. And I was talking to him and I was making coils for him. And he said, I'm doing this thing with Crowfoot. We're going to do this thing. And I said to him, dude, you should do a poster of all the skateboards. And he said, remember those Beer of the World posters?
Yeah.
And then Lyle Tuttle had the machine poster that we all had. I said, you should do that. And he said, oh, we should do a book. And I was like, oh, you should do a book. And that weekend, I went out and I bought a book at Borders, How to Make a Book. And I called him back the next day and I said, I'll make the book. I had no shit about making books.
That book was perfect, though, too.
And thank you. And he said, yeah, do it. And then I got hooked into Sean. And then the whole thing happened and I had to scramble to learn how to make that book. and it came out.
How to get the fucking boards photographed and fucking scanned and all the bullshit.
That was crazy. And to put it together, and then I had it printed in the United States. What a fool I was. It was so expensive. And then we all made money. The three of us kind of got a little cut from the book. And I spent all my money on skateboards. And to this day, those skateboards are behind my head in every meeting I have all around the world. And people say, I love those skateboards. And I could say, they're tattoo artists that did them.
Original art.
And we did a book, and it's like a great foray, but I have a great
What year
background.
was that? Was that like 2001, 2002?
Yeah, 2002 or 2003.
Okay.
That
was before. It would be because we did our decks, Eric and I, when I worked at Darkside, which would have been the end of 2002, because we opened up Hope at the middle of 2003.
Okay.
So.
And that was huge. Again, I think that was one of those seminal projects.
It was, and it was shown. All the decks were shown down in North Carolina.
North Carolina was the show, and they sold right off the floor. Yeah. And again, I just couldn't. Every book I sold, I was like, hold that deck. I bought Gunner's deck and Betts's deck, and
you were also one of the first publishers to simply say, "Hey, you guys could buy these books," because we weren't really getting paid. We got a book.
Yeah. And my deal was very simple. I'm going to make the investment in the book. The minute we break even is 50-50.
Right. That was the deal I had with you the whole time.
That's the deal I had with everybody.
It wasn't until I started fronting, when I started fronting money for the books.
Yeah, because you started doing your own thing. Yeah. But then the second book I did was Martin's book, and that's where it plays into the part where I met Martin. He was so prolific. He had so much artwork. And I started talking to him about doing a book because I had a vision for kind of tattoos, artwork, and flash in a book. Right. And then I wouldn't. He was so great about it, and he just gave me so much freedom. And then that book was huge.
Yeah.
And that
was a take what you want, give nothing back.
Yes, and I see the three books in my mind's eye are Grimes' book, The 2-Year Autopsy, which was huge.
Who published that one? Do you remember?
Grime.
Oh, it was done by him.
Yeah,
Okay.
Grime put that book out. Adrian's book, The Bodysuits.
Those books are amazing. Yeah, there was the 2 versions of it too. There was the big one, but the original one was the smaller
But the original one
version.
was the smaller version.
Yeah.
And then it was Martin's book. That was the ushering in of publishing of high quality stuff that wasn't just bound together at Kinko's.
Well, at that point, I think the only books that could compare to that would be the old Tattoo Times from Ed Hardy.
Well, and
then you had some of the UK printing. From,
but my grail was the Horiyoshi books.
True, yeah.
That's what I looked at and said, I want to do hard case bound, hardback, high quality paper. And Martin's book, and then obviously you and I, that was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
The problem was where to stop. You produced so much work, you were so prolific.
At that time,
But I wanted to go backwards because you had all that stuff that was so cool from when you did airbrush, probably before you tattooed.
Oh, it was from that stuff was some of that stuff dated back to like probably 86, 88.
I love that stuff.
Oh, me too. I mean, it's when you look at the book now, you sit back and you're like, oh my God, this is so fucking dated. But for early 2000s,
but there's something about it, and I thought it spoke to the idea that airbrushing was so big, never got its due.
Right.
Like never was recognized as a legit art form. People treated it like it was a quick way to do art, and that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah.
And again, I grew up like you grew up in comic books and with people like Olivia who brought airbrush into
all the
it.
pin-up stuff and
and that was such a great tool that I love that. And again, I love that you came from that. I love portrait work. I love pinup work. So to me, that was a perfect amalgamation. And then, we worked. That was the first thing we did, right?
That was the.
What's not
I remember driving home from Pulse, and we had decided we didn't know what to fucking call it. And I called you when I was like, I think I hit Meriden, and I'm like, dude, we're just gonna call it What's Not to Like.
Yeah.
And you were just like, oh, I like that idea, and I'm like, yeah, but it's got to be What's Not TA like, and you were just like, oh, that's fucking cool, and I'm I mean, it's great. The only thing is, it's like this podcast. It's not for nothing, but I think if you're going to put it online, you're going to be like NOTFOR. You're not going to do the FER.
So they know.
That's the hope.
That's
the hope.
And that book was tremendous. That book blew up Presto.
Yeah.
Presto Art was the publishing company that I'd spun off of.
Yeah. And then eventually, didn't the Flash end up going under the? Did the Flash ever go under Presto? It was always Pulse.
What you're thinking of is then we moved to. Oh, wait a second. See, this is what happens, kids, when you get old. Chronologically, you can't remember anything. We did the Giclée prints first for Presto. That's how Presto Art started.
Exactly.
It was you,
and
Eric,
and then
Hoffman,
Josh.
And Martin.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And that was the thing. I wanted to do high-end Giclée prints. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
And you guys came up and signed them.
Yeah.
And this is where I was a super jackass. Then I made a postcard for everybody. Remember?
Yeah.
Because I wanted everybody to feel special.
And people get the postcard.
And I sent them, they got the postcards, and they didn't need the artwork because they're like, oh, this is super cool.
Yeah,
and I'd go into shops and see the postcard on the wall and think, oh, yeah, did you buy the... Yeah. We still did all right with those.
They were good.
That's where that started.
That was the beginning, like, because I was selling Giclées. I used to deal with the printer on Long Island, and I would go back to the island. I started in 98 or 99. I started making prints.
Yep.
And then I would drive back to Long Island from New Hampshire, drop it off with this printer. It wasn't even a printer. It was a framing place that had a full Epson printer that could print, like, 5 feet across by as long as you wanted, and I got my prints done there. And that's when a print would cost me. My cost was anywhere between $70 to as much as $120.
Yeah.
So if I sold something for $300, it's because it cost me $120, $150 to print.
Yeah, the Giclée prints were no joke.
That's where I think it gets lost because it's technically digital. They're only calling it Giclée because Giclée means to spray.
It does,
or spurt on.
Because it used to be screen printed,
exactly,
like serigraph and a lithograph. Exactly. But still, it was such high quality.
Yes.
Like the reproduction was great, and we had control of the paper because we did like an Arches watercolor paper because I really wanted it to feel like I was very proud of those prints and the quality.
Yeah.
And again, we are offering something into tattooing that never had seen that quality.
Yeah, exactly.
That you could hang it up and it's going to be a great piece of art.
Yeah, it would be like 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100 artists might have had something of that quality.
Right.
And that was that.
And again, I can't even remember what we charged. $60, I think.
Which was still cheap. Cheap as shit.
I thought so for a signed
then,
piece of limited edition artwork.
Back then.
But that's where Presto started. Then the book. Yeah. Then Martin, you.
You did the snowboard book. You had a book with Dave
the
Fox.
snowboard book was Burton. That was Bruce Bart,
yeah.
Who called me because they had seen the other book and they said they wanted to hire me, and I said I'll only do it if you print it under my label. But that show was awesome. That show went everywhere.
That was upstate. Yeah, that was upstate New York.
That was in Woodstock,
but
then it went Japan, Germany.
Yeah.
That was like in all the snowboard magazines. That got really great press coverage.
Yeah.
I ended up getting a lot of press coverage from that because it showed up so many places.
Right.
That was a great project.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who ended up with any of those snowboards. Do you?
I know mine sold. I don't know who bought it. I know mine went. I think Eric still.
He had his snowboard for a long time because it was framed.
He did sell it, and then he had it print in his room for a long period of time.
That was a great project.
I know books. I know people sold them. I know Rodney still got his. I mean, there are still people that have them, but I know some of them moved. Some of my skate decks from back in the day, I know they'll pop up on eBay every now and again.
That's
like
funny.
Someone's trying to unload it from something they bought off of me in fucking 98 or whatever, 99.
Yeah.
So, but
But the books
like
were good. And again, that was something I loved. And again, friendship led me to the next.
Yeah.
I did Jimmy's books. I did Dave Fox's books.
Well, I think that was the joy of that time where it was not necessarily people looking for the deal. They were just looking for a fucking in. So it's like, dude, have you met Jimmy? And Jimmy would be like, oh, have you met this guy?
It's true.
Have you met that guy?
And it's true. And everybody was connected to, well, that was the beauty of Pulse, is that it allowed me to meet everybody.
Yeah.
Because did Tom Renshaw come up and see you and then you brought him to Pulse?
Back in the day, yeah.
Yeah. This was before Jimmy and him ended up in the same shop together.
I'm trying to think.
Or
I don't think they were they working together at Electric Superstition
Maybe they
at that
were.
point? Because I met them at Paul's show in 2000.
Yeah.
That's when they came up because we had done Jersey, and then the night before I got a phone call from Tom and he's like, "Hey man, we're in New Hampshire. We want to know if we can come by your shop and use your autoclave tomorrow. Scrub tubes." This is when we were still using steel on the road.
Yeah.
And they came up, and that's where I met Jimmy. And he brought Bob
then,
up.
All right. Then that must be the way it went. Because I remember meeting Tom.
Yeah.
Because remember I had that baseball collection that I used to have people sign?
Yeah.
I still have those baseballs.
Oh, shit. Very cool.
I do.
Nice.
That's a very oddball thing. I had baseballs that I would give to tattoo artists that were just regular, and they'd sign them, paint them, sculpt them.
Yeah.
I had that collection for a while. I still have all those baseballs. What a strange thing to have tried to grow out a collection of baseballs. But Renshaw just signed his.
Yeah.
So I still have like a
He was
Tom
one of the
Renshaw's.
first people to do that. Yeah. I wonder if I'll see him this week when I go up there.
I'll tell him I said hello.
Yeah,
if
definitely.
you do.
I'm going to hook up with Bob and Marshall Bennett, so I'm looking forward to that. So.
Well, everyone leads you to everybody else. Again,
Right.
Bob did that great T-shirt for me.
Right.
As Jimmy becomes the pivot point.
Yeah.
And the pivot point to Gunnar. And again, I knew Gunnar through other people.
Because he's from up this way originally.
Yeah, Gunnar's from this way, and he worked for Dean, a kid who still works at Body Graphics. Yeah. And I actually became more friends with Gunnar when he left and went to work for Derb.
Right.
Out there because I had hooked up with Gunnar, was doing some stuff, and then remember he worked with Hoffa. And him and Hoffa left and opened Gods and Monsters.
Yeah.
I love that kid's style.
Yeah. Oh, fucking Hoffa's still crushing it, dude. He's down in Florida now.
Didn't he do the poster for? No, Adam Hathorne did the poster for.
Yeah, Hoffa's more about doing his own thing.
But he's done some
such great style.
Signs, right? Well, again, he came out of like that Ed Big Daddy Roth.
Yeah.
Like he grew up in that kind of vibe. Yeah. I love that work.
Stuff is killer, and it just translates so well to tattooing, to printing, to all kinds of stuff.
It did, but that's the thing is I knew Gunnar when he was working for Derb.
Yeah.
And again, Flash. And he would come back to Connecticut. He was always everywhere.
Yeah.
But then him and Jimmy became really tight.
They were tight for a short time. I don't know if they're as tight as they once were. But again, that happened. I think that's with you and I. We talked about this 8 years ago. 10 years ago, we start to separate. Things start to split. And
it's true. And we should all know that. We should all know that there's a time limit for all our relationships. And we should say, oh, you sound grouchy. And I'm irritated with you. Let's just get drinks and fuck the business. And it's the business that does everybody in. Because think about all the people that you have been with and had relationships with who things turn sour. And again, you and Corey were thick as thieves. And that was the duo, too. When you two got together, that's also when everybody turned their heads and went, look at what these two guys
That was
are doing.
incredibly short-lived. That was like a year and a half, like 2 years probably.
But everybody I know went to get tattooed by you or Corey in that window.
That shop was pretty cool. I wish it had lasted, but there were too many poisonous fucking douchebags around it. There was just no way it was. That and the fact that, in my opinion, Corey's a fucking nightmare. He's just got issues.
But he was a great tattoo
artist.
He's
an amazing artist.
And at the time, he was bringing such good ideas.
Yeah.
And you fed off each other.
Yeah.
But again, volatility pushed you apart.
The fact of the matter is, like, the reason why I went to New Hampshire was to work with Corey. That was the entire reason. Like, when I left Lotus, I remember Civ being like, man, if you think you're going to go up there and become a better artist, I don't know what you're giving up here. Like, he was mad that I was leaving Long Island to go work that. And I looked at it as, dude, this guy smokes me. Yep. Like, I want to work amongst him with him.
Yeah, he sets the speed, and you run to keep up.
Exactly.
That's always good for you. That's never bad for you.
It's an incredible thing.
I went and saw Tim Brewer. And I are still good friends, and he has a shop up in Massachusetts. I went and saw him 6 months ago, and his shop is beautiful. He's got all these young kids that work for him, and it's like revitalized him as an artist. Because I was like, who's doing this? Who's doing this? Who's drawing that? He's like, me. I'm like, 30 years in the business and you're still sitting around drawing? He says, the kids. It's the young people and the energy around.
Trying to keep up.
That are driving him to work. And I was really impressed with the stuff he's been putting out. But I think it's the young people around him.
Well, that's why I think that was the point of doing the podcast and trying to get out there and be amongst things, because if we stick ourselves, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still sound like an old fuck when I argue and complain about stuff. But it's not like I'm not above trying to learn something.
But here's how I see it. I've watched some of your podcasts, and I feel like you are the unvoted union leader for tattooing. And you are like, you get so mad, and I think to myself, well, that doesn't affect you. But you really do bring it for everybody else. Like the common man who's not getting off their own ass. Yeah. You are pounding the table like a union boss saying, we're getting screwed. This isn't right. This isn't the way it should be. And I think to myself, it's not that way for you. You're world famous. Had all the opportunities.
Yeah.
People know you. This does not affect you. And you could just skate right by. But something drives you inside. Well, it's the Long Island in you.
Yeah, I don't want to see people taken advantage of. I don't want to see people being able to take advantage. I think that's one of my biggest issues. I mean, dude, I've been around to help a lot of people. Suppliers, whatever, you know what I mean? I'm not going to name names, whatever, they know who they are. And it wasn't because I was trying to I wasn't being selfish. This is me looking at a product with you, and just being like, no, man, this is fucking legit, dude. You need to back these people because these people need that.
Yes,
because you need that.
That's the East Coast in you too.
Because I think if I know something, you can tell me what's good, but until I've used it and tried it, I'm not going to believe you. And the thing is, like with pigments, I mean, I've used a lot of shit. I've used a lot of machines. I've gone and used a lot of needles and supplies, whatever. I don't give a fuck you giving it to me free. The one thing I've often said, the reason why I've stuck with Electric Ink, with all the stuff that I use from them is, it's like, find me something better, and I'll start buying that.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say it, because I do get a lot of stuff for free from Electric, but if I stop liking it, or if I find something better, I will spend money. Dude, when we did Easy Glow, we had to buy our own stuff.
Yeah.
We didn't get it. Just because we brought it into the country doesn't mean it wasn't coming out of my pocket to fucking buy.
Well, I'm sure that was one of the problems as well, is that you could only stake up so much money. Exactly. You couldn't put $100,000 of ink
and that's the problem.
And that was the problem initially, is that other people did have more money to kind of scale up faster. Mario scaled up very quickly.
Oh, no, certainly. I mean, again, when you have shops and you have, I mean, it was
and money and investors. I mean, that's the other thing I've seen come into this business just from afar as I look into the window now, is the amount of investors. As I was transitioning out, and again, when I got out, I was burned out. You knew that. I did it as hard as I could do it for 18 years. And then it was just, I had a family, and it just became not fun anymore.
Yeah.
And I do things until they're not fun. And this was an easy choice to make, to say, I'm going to go get a job. And Jessica ran the company, and we kind of shrunk it down. And
everything was changing, man.
That's my point, is that, but when I was on the way out, I was approached by a guy who was like an investment guy from Canada, who wanted to look at and I had to put a prospectus together and say, do you want to suck this company up? Because he was trying to suck up all the companies.
Yeah.
Yes, and this idea. And I remember having conversations with multiple people in my realm. Soba at Workhorse, Jimmy down at Lucky's.
Lucky's.
And there was someone else, Icon Device.
Yeah.
Those people were really great. They were very smart.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy dealt with them for a long period of time for on the outside, you know, like doing stuff for like
and I know they had a lot
stuff.
of internal strife with Bill and Monica and the other partner, but they still were a conscientious, cool company that I looked up.
I think you got out at the right time. I mean, you could say you got out at the wrong time
but
too.
They were. That's when the consolidation was coming, and that killed me because I thought, oh well, maybe this guy will come in with his money, pump it in, or I'll become part of a bigger entity.
And you could do something with it.
Yeah,
which is what we're seeing.
Well, and this is where Kingpin got eaten up. Bill was the other person at Kingpin.
Dude, Kingpin,
I talked to.
Tat Soul, Bishop, fucking most of the pigment companies are like Eternal was one of the first ones to go.
Well, because bigger money came in and there was an opportunity to get out, and people saw consolidation coming in the business. And I tried to be part of that. I would have easily gone along and become a component of what became, company, again, Kingpin, Tat Soul got collapsed. The guy who was looking at all the companies kind of backed off because it's a volatile business. I don't know if you know that. Yeah. But they don't like outsiders in the business.
Well, that's why they keep people. That's why they keep the basic structure of what it is. Yeah. Because it has to. Most people don't even know that a lot of these companies sold out. You know what I mean? And when they do find out, some of them fuck off and bounce.
There's a lot. That was a funny thing too. Is that remember how quiet things we would hear that they sold this company or they sold the Reed Street Forum.
Yeah, right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And they were like, "You don't say anything." I was like, "Nothing." But people got back end deals. Same thing with the sponsorships. Yeah. You never took a check from anybody, but I mean, people took fat checks from some of these companies who said, "Oh, come in, use my shit." And that's $20,000.
That's what burns your ass 10 years later. Is you sit back and you're like, "You got paid what?" Like, dude, I've gone to shows and all I got was a fucking hotel room and a booth. And motherfuckers are getting paid to attend the show, and you sit back and I'm like, what? Who the fuck is that?
I know.
They're bringing 3 people through the fucking door.
Well, outside people came in. They did a good job of keeping it on the down low. Yeah. But
well, that's what you got to do.
I guess. Again, if I had sold the company, I would have said I sold the company. Yeah. So, and again, I ended up moving the company along to Jay. He kind of took the bones over.
Yeah, I like what Jay's doing now. And again, it's a shame because it's such a small company.
It is.
That there's really only so much you
can do. It was never
to
built to be a big company because it's a specialty. It's not for everybody. Yeah. We didn't do a rotary machine. That was something I started to say before when we were talking about rotaries. Is that's where I should have made the transition. Is I should have made a rotary machine. And everybody would come to me and be like, "Oh, you've got such good aesthetics. You'll have a great rotary machine." And I understood the mechanics, but still didn't understand. Remember, it was Japanese motor versus German motor versus
motor, Swiss motor. Yeah.
I also had people in my ear saying, "Don't do that." And I had to listen to them because I wasn't, and I don't blame them. I made my choices.
Well, dude, it's funny how all those guys who cut their teeth and made their living off of making coils are now all doing rotaries. And the fucking shame of it is it's changing the entire dynamic of how people purchase supplies. Like cartridges, while cartridges are very convenient, they're not better than a needle on a bar. You know what I mean? And again, if you know the difference between a coil machine and a needle on a bar versus...
And to you, because you've worked that way for a long time.
Dude, there's sometimes I'd rather use a rotary machine with needle on the bar, like the old Bishop, the old Neotats, all those machines. I prefer the needle on the bar till this day.
That guy had some great technology. The Bishop guy did a really nice job.
Well, I mean, it was a lot of that stuff was all piggybacking off the Neotat, and they were all kind of moving forward at the same speed. I think you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it became more of an aesthetic thing than anything else.
But it changed the whole business. I mean, that's the agreement that we'll all make is that it changed the dynamic. You could buy a machine, open it, and it would work in the skin, whereas you couldn't buy a coil machine and it would work right out of the box.
Right.
And that made a huge difference. There wasn't a knowledge base that you have to get. And now there's so much knowledge on YouTube, on television.
Oh, yeah. And now everything's plug and play. You buy a machine on Amazon. You don't know if it works bad or good. You just fucking use it. And if you don't know any better, then you don't matter. It doesn't matter to you.
And I would love to say and look at that shitty work, but you look at it, there's great work out there.
There's more talent today than there ever has been in this business.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, if I'm bitching and complaining about where things are going, I ain't bitching and complaining about the talent. I'm bitching and complaining about the attitude and probably the direction that I see the whole thing going, and I just don't see the longevity of it.
Did people think that of you when you?
Oh, most certainly. Yeah, most certainly.
Okay, well, then
but the thing is, but keep in mind
and that's the natural progression of
that last 25 years, we see stuff happening now like this. You wonder how long these careers are going to last today being as how the turnover.
Well, they won't. I mean, again, I was just mentioning before that it's a gig economy for young people.
Yeah.
They're tattooing, but they're also driving Uber, and they're also working at a bar part-time. And it's cool because they like the 2 days they do this and the 2 days.
Right.
That's different. That's a different mindset.
Yeah.
You came in and said, I want to make this my career.
Yeah.
And then I want to kind of get as much out of it as I possibly can.
Well, certainly, yeah.
But that's not what, I don't think that's what people say now. I think kids say,
I mean,
this is a skill I'm going to pick up and I'm going to do this for a while.
In 93, when I was told I can go anywhere in the world and do this, I can meet anybody I wanted to and do this. I could do anything I wanted to and do this. I don't think people think about it from that perspective.
Did somebody tell you that?
Oh yeah, my first year tattooing.
Who
Tom
told you
Butler.
that?
Tom Butler. Guy I worked with.
Butler,
His thing was, and I worked with Tom for maybe 6 months at Cliffs, 4 months at Cliffs, and then him and Civ eventually opened up Lotus.
Yeah.
And I worked for Civ and Tom. Tom opened Lotus.
And he told you that.
And the first thing he said was, you can go anywhere in the world and do this. And it wasn't until I've been doing it I started doing conventions probably in 94. I think 94.
But you know that's not the norm. Most people were told you can fuck off.
No, true.
And again,
back then I would go to a convention. I'd have to pay for my own booth. I'd have to pay for my hotel, and I'd still have to kick back 50% to the shop at home.
You were party of what?
Yeah.
Oh, that's old school.
I did that for years, dude.
Oh,
did that for years. I think the one show that stopped that,
right.
I did the New York convention with Civ. The first,
at Roseland's?
I did the first and second year. The second year we did it, I was like, you know what? I'm fucking over this. I don't want to keep giving kickbacks. I was half the reason we got the booth.
What a mob mentality.
You got two other guys here. I'll work one day, they can work the other days. And Civ's thought was, well, they're not going to work. I'm like, not on me. You're the boss.
That's so funny,
You're the boss. Man. So I walked away, and I did one day at the New York convention, and then fucked off and worked at the shop the rest of the weekend. And I was happy with that. And that, I think, was my first step in the thing of like, yeah, man, like if I'm the one representing the shop, it doesn't say Joe Capobianco on the banner. It says Lotus Tattoo.
Yeah.
And if I have to give a kickback every single time and I get nothing for it but grief every time I go away and slowly make a name for myself, I don't need this anymore. Yeah. And that was the beginning of the end of my relationship with Civ, you know. And it's a shame.
He still tattoos, right?
Oh yeah. He still owns. Dude, Lotus just hit 30.
That's great.
Lotus has been tattooing. I started there a year after I started tattooing, so I'll be tattooing 33 years February. Lotus is now 32 years old. And nice. Dude, not for still in the same location. I think he's opening up. Someone said he's opening up a shop in Manhattan. He owns a brownstone in Harlem. And I think he's opening up a shop in Harlem. But he goes back. He was going back and forth to Long Island for 30 years. You know, it's like a reverse thing.
How long you want to tattoo?
As long as I possibly can.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know anything else, and I fucking love it.
That seems to be the gig.
But the thing is, I love it. Like, that's the thing. Like, every day is a fucking challenge. Drawing, creating, trying to become a better artist. Granted, you get stale, you get old, and it becomes harder to do these things. But the fact of the matter is, I just want to continue to do it, you know? So that's it, you know? That's it. So, yeah, if I can get another 15, 20 years out of this, I want to. Whether or not that's possible, we'll see, you know? So
I do.
We'll see. So, all right. Well,
it is good to see you.
Yeah, same here, dude.
I miss this business, some parts of it, the people parts of it, the good people parts of it. The motherfuckers, I don't miss them at all.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that.
There is, and I don't miss the nonsense and the grinds. It was a grind from the day I stepped in the door. Yeah. But I do miss the people, and I miss the creativity, the back and forth, the ideas, the building of products.
All the collaborations you did with people and stuff. I mean, that's all big deals.
I loved all that stuff. That part I definitely miss. The funny thing is I ended up in a business where I rebuild businesses, so I still do a lot of that same marketing, product development, packaging.
Dude, the fact of the matter is the packaging on Pulse products were the best till this fucking day. I mean, granted, when you look at them today, they're dated in comparison to what we see today. But when it came out, they were incredibly unique. They were incredibly eye-catching, and in my opinion, it helped sell my books. Yeah, it helped sell the products, the pigment company that we had for a short time. All those things are what help push us forward.
I love packaging to this day. But that's it. Again, I'm a graphic designer. I was never an artist. Yeah. I did one tattoo one time. Skin's weird canvas. It wasn't for me. But yeah, again, man, I was happy to be part of it. I'm happy to live through this period of time. It was really good. It made me everything I have now. I got from tattooing.
Right.
My house. I paid for my kids' sweaters and sneakers. And it was very, very good to me. I was happy to get back to it as much as I could.
Right.
And again, I'm happy to see you, and I'm happy to see this place still
Yeah.
up and running. And again, all the people I knew and all my friends still kind of work. I don't really talk to them much anymore.
Yeah.
Although, guess who called me yesterday?
Oh.
Martin.
Oh, for
I
real?
haven't talked to Martin in 10 or 12 years. He's thinking about doing a book and had some questions, and it was
Fucking good for him.
really
dude.
awesome. That's not true. Soba's called me all the time
You still talk
since
to
I left.
Soba, yeah. You still talk to Soba.
Yes, yeah, because again, I like to hear what he's up to.
Yeah.
And we stay in touch. He hates beets, so every time I see beets, I take a picture, I send it to him, and he says, "Oh, nasty."
The fact of the matter is, man, if one of that crew does not do their damnedest to keep that together, then you've got nobody to blame but yourself. And that's how I look at it. That's why I stay in touch. That's why I'm going to Detroit this weekend. That's why we're doing this thing in Ohio at the end of August. That's why I continue to do certain conventions, because I know I'm going to run into certain people that I want to remain friends with, that I cherish. And that's why I reached out to you.
Yeah,
and
I appreciate it.
Because I miss it, man. The fact of the matter is, it's all the people in my life that have made me who I am. Like, I am not a wellspring of fucking inspiration. It is all the people that I surround myself with and call friends and enemies and whatever else.
Yeah.
That's what makes me who I am. And I'm sure that a lot of people can maybe relate to that. So
I totally agree.
cool. I appreciate it, man.
It's
Thank
great
you
to
so
see
much.
you.
I appreciate it.
You got it.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Spread the word. I'm going to have whatever information on Brett that he's willing to give me. We'll have it in the description below. And I'll see you when I see you. Thanks for tuning in.